Hi everyone, my name is Archie, and today I'm going to be taking you through some of the general facts and information that you need to know about the Republic Act 10175, or more commonly known as Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. We'll be looking at some of the information about the law, its provisions, who are the main proponents of the law, a little bit background, the history of how the law came about, and how it's being implemented right now in our country. And I'll also be citing some of the news that has come up recently in the media regarding this law. Finally, I'll be taking you through some of my final thoughts about this RA 10175. So let's get started. RA 10175, or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, was approved and signed into law by the ex-president Benigno Aquino III in September 12, 2012. It addresses legal issues in online interactions and in the internet in the Philippines. If we look into the past, some of you can remember that in the year 2000, a virus that was created by a Filipino student called I Love You virus ravaged the internet for about $5 billion, causing damage. A year later, Representative Eric Singson files Anti-Cybercrime Act of 2012. In the years between 2003 and 2009, several lawmakers, including Villar and Trillanes, actually filed bills to support this. In 2010, two separate bills, one from the Senate and one from the House, was filed in support of this Anti-Cybercrime Act. In 2011, the House approves its bill on the third reading, and fast forward to 2012, the Senate approves its own bill about this. And later on that year, President Aquino signs the bill into law. As was mentioned, the main proponents of this law is Senator Edgardo Angara and also Susan Yap Sulit and 30 other co-authors of the House bill. In the provisions, divided into 31 sections across 8 chapters, it criminalizes several types of offenses that are listed here. It has a universal jurisdiction, which means that anything that was committed within the Philippines, even if it's partly the device being partly in the Philippines, is covered under this law. Any crimes committed in this, meaning online, will be actually 1 degree higher compared to its normal penalties in the penal code. Several petitions were signed by several personas and groups, and the main contentions that were around online libel clause, the power of the state to actually monitor real-time traffic data even without warrant, and the takedown clause power of the state by mere prima facie were the main contentions that happened during these petitions. Several TROs happened, and finally the SC ruled in February 18, 2014, deeming that the online libel clause was constitutional, although it actually struck down some of the provisions, including the ones that violated the provisions on double jeopardy. Interestingly enough, the implementing rules and regulations were only passed 3 years after the approval of the law. And it also means that it doesn't apply to things posted before it was ruled constitutional, which was mentioned early in 2014. And a new interagency body for policy coordination was actually created, and it also adds penalties to the Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009. This act also makes a distinction between subscriber information and subscriber data. As was mentioned earlier, the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center is the main government agency that is coordinating between government agencies like the Department of Justice, the NBI, and PNP regarding the implementation of this. We also have heard in some of the news lately that the PNP ACG is the main group that actually does the implementation here. It's called the Anti-Cybercrime Group. So now, 5 years later, how has this law been implemented? I'll be showing 4 articles that we've seen in the media lately. The first one being a kasambahay that was charged under this law for posting nude photos of her amo in the internet. The second one that you're seeing here is 4 men that were actually arrested for credit card fraud in Pasay City. The next one that you're seeing here is very familiar, from the COMELEC chairman, Andres Bautista, suing his estranged wife for allegedly going through his emails without his permission, and is using this law to file a suit against her and her lawyer Lorna Kapunan. Lastly, involving the Marawi crisis, cyber sedition is a form of cybercrime that makes use of online means and activities to plot against the government. You can access the link below on my Prezi to see details of all of this. Now that we've looked at all of that, what are my final thoughts? I think generally the law really addresses and hits to the point what its main objectives is. And that is to make sure that crimes in the cyberspace do not go unpunished. Prior to 2001, or even prior to 2012 when it's finally been enacted, the cyberspace has been a lawless place. No rules, anyone can just post anything or commit anything with anonymity, and that is a scary thought. But I think, generally speaking, what the law aims to do in terms of making sure that people are held accountable towards crimes that they commit in the cyberspace is being hit here. There were a couple of petitions and reactions from certain personas and other groups, which are very valid on its own. I think that's the beauty of our democracy, being able to file these petitions against laws that we think will trample upon some of the rights that we already have, and that's a healthy environment. I mean, no matter what we think of right now, I think having channels like that for us to be heard and seen by our government is a good thing. Having said that, knowing that the Supreme Court has already ruled its final findings about the constitutionality of some of these points that were raised in the petition, I think we can rest assured that the law finally is towards where we want it to be. Although it took some time for the implementing rules and regulations to be published, I think 3 years exactly. It's finally here, and as you can see from some of the news that I discussed earlier, we do have these measures already, and I think it is preventing or at least scaring some of these criminals to be doing acts like this just carelessly. So in my opinion, the law is what it is right now, and it has its merits, most of its merits, and we can still maintain a healthy discussion around it. I do believe that some of the points about our privacy and freedom of expression need to still be in discussion. I think there are still some petitions and appeals that are happening right now. One thing is for sure, I think this particular project, this particular video has enlightened me towards how I can actually be involved in discussions like this in our country. I think it's healthy. I think it's something that we all need to be part of in our own little way. We don't have to be a congressman or a senator to be able to influence a law like this. Just being able to discuss it freely and openly and being heard through what we have seen in some of these petitions, I think that's a win for democracy, and that's a win for the Philippines. Thank you.